No, Mackie? Yeah, sure, Giuseppe. It's wonderful. Welcome to Plato's Cave on WZZR, coming to you from Australia for Revolution Radio on revolution.radio. It's easy to remember because it's the same, except with a dot. That's right. It's home to ideas that might be fresh or uncensored or conversations. Turning into conversations. That's good. Hey! They might even be new. New is good. Some are a bit older, but nonetheless still good. An idea doesn't really age. It just gets refreshed. The station does not accept money from corporate, non-gov, other institutional bodies. Nothing. They accept nothing from anyone, right? The station is completely independent. What it does need is you. We don't get any funds from anyone but you. So if you can donate, any currency, crypto, whatever, I don't care. Or, in fact, I don't get any of the money, so I really don't care what you donate or how, but it would be good if you could. Anything is good. And if you can't, which could happen, because, let's face it, times are tough all over. Then you can tell people about this station, your friends, family, complete strangers in the street. Sneak up on them, right?
Revolution Radio.
Creepily whisper over their shoulder into their ear, "Hey, you, come and listen to Revolution Radio." That's a way to make friends. Hey, oh, look at that. In the chat room, we have Maced, a 139, Fleeced, Surf, a Narara, of course. Mm-hmm. We also have Flippy is here. Flippy, Jim Jones, very good, excellent. Gear Jammer, Harry the Busker, .weebly.com. I like that, that's good. And Lavender Streams, Manifestor Susie Q909. Oh, this is wonderful. Okay, that's as far as I'm going to go. Right, today is the 26th of October 2023, and we're still here. Yes, that's right.
Good morning to all of you.
That's what it is. Morning, evening, night, whatever is your particular time of day. And yeah, there has been no rupture yet, so I guess the Battle of Megiddo hasn't happened. Hey, Armageddon is tomorrow. I'm going to buy a t-shirt. Armageddon is tomorrow. That's hey, copyright me.
I'm betting Armageddon's tomorrow.
It's getting there, though. That's the thing.
We'll
talk about that. Yeah, I know. I love it, right? Anyway, Armageddon tomorrow, guys. Armageddon tomorrow. Today, though, we are going to prep for it, and we're going to talk about that and why that actually is something that is becoming more and more likely. It's just insane! You can catch the cave, our cave, Plato's cave, the cave where people are told lies, nothing but lies, right? And we are here to cut through it. We are the people that, I guess they break through their chains and run out into the world and then go back and tell everybody about it in Plato's cave. That's where we are right now. And we probably get beaten to death for our troubles. Mm-hmm. It's okay. It's okay. Someone has to do it. You can catch the cave on the air, on the line, all the time. Head onto your smart device. I don't know who was chilling there, buddy. So grab an app to listen anywhere. Apps. That's what I should have gotten into when I was younger. App creation. Or listen at home on a great tabletop radio. Tabletop, rather. Still haven't got one yet. I looked them up, though. They look pretty neat. Archives are free. Another good reason to come and donate. Used to be, I think it used to be $5 a month.
That's
subscription. Right. But now it is free, gratis, umsonst. Yeah, no down payment. Before we start broadcasting at you in anger, we would like to, I should say, acknowledge the traditional, we will do it, because we're doing it right now, the traditional custodians of the land. And for Dave?
The Dark and Young.
Thank you, sir. And for myself, of course, the good Darak people here in, chilly Pemulwuy today. And with that, we'd like to pay our respects to elders past, present, and future. Now, Dave, I tell you what, my friend.
All right.
The Australian government, this is true, is going to deploy troops.
That's right.
Into the Middle East. Why? Why is, honestly, I'm thinking, Why? Yes, we have a lot of Australians, believe it or not, both in Israel and in Lebanon and in Gaza and in Egypt and all the surrounds, because in Australia we come...
You name it, we've got the
You
people.
name it. Yeah, we come from all over the shop, which is great. It's great.
We come from the land down under, from everywhere.
From everywhere.
Yeah.
But I heard a couple of reports, and I'm thinking, what? Why? I mean, we've got enough trouble at home. The bushfire season has come in anger already.
Queensland's
we've got
on fire, yeah.
Yeah, and we have a number of people that have died in the fires already. That's not good. And it's only spring. It's October.
That's right. And now we had 20 degrees above average in the preceding week, and this week it's snowing on the Southern Alps again, and Canberra's going to be 1 degrees overnight.
It's
crazy, you know.
Look, it
but
really
Queensland is. Queensland, Northern Western Australia, and NT are experiencing higher than summer temperatures right now.
Oh, completely. But the crazy thing is this, and Dave has experienced this obviously just as much as I am. One day it's 30, 35 degrees, right, for a couple of days in fact. Then it goes down to 18, 17 degrees. And then it jumps back up again after a couple of days. It is really, the funny thing is this: if you take the average, it'll be perfect spring weather, right? So it's a nice balmy spring. It's hot. Swelteringly hot, or it is in fact very, very cold, and cold enough for me to consider putting on the heater again at night.
So I sent you right before the show. I sent you a link to the Bureau of Meteorology's website, radar, and there's an ominous blob of rain that's descending down the coast. It's about to hit us, and sometime during the evening, Meckie, during the night, you'll get it, because Meckie's like an hour's drive south of me. So
yeah, that's about right. That's just nuts.
It's very strange that there's a downward force of rain as a bulge, and then there's an opposing wind feeding into it.
Yeah.
I haven't seen that before, and it's not what it isn't is wind shear. That's when you've got a high altitude, like jet stream, and going in either perpendicular or on an angle towards that at a lower latitude. So in the stratosphere, and this is very strange. I've honestly, there's so many weird weather things, Meckie, as you know, I've captured on our Doppler evidence of the use of HAARP as weather manipulation. I grabbed them as little GIFs, and there it is. It's right there. So you see a wind come in all directions, spreading out on the ground that wasn't there before, and here it is, and it's in the same place, usually off the coast of Sydney, and they use it to counter an oncoming storm, because it'll basically nullify it. And so it's really interesting what they do, and I don't know what's going on with this one. I've been watching weather, Meckie, all my life, from watching Wilkie.
The conversation deteriorates when you start talking about the weather, right? What are we talking about today? No weather. Oh no.
Oh please no. But anyway, that's all I'm saying, because it's part of your thing you were talking about. So.
But it's 100%. See, but this is the thing though. The weather used to be a conversation, Phil. Oh, how's the weather? Oh yeah, the weather. It's okay. Good weather, bad weather, whatever, right? It was just something to say when you had nothing to say.
Mm-hmm. That was the end of the conversation usually.
Not so much now, really, because you start in on the weather. Oh, yeah, another 5 people have died. Oh, the flooding, another town destroyed. You can't talk about the weather in a throwaway manner anymore. You can't. It's not possible, because the weather has now become our enemy. Yeah.
Meckie, did you see in hitting Mexico, was it, I forget the storm name.
Oh,
Isla?
the storm.
Isla or something.
Oh my God, the hurricane. In fact, it was Hurricane Ortega. Hang on, what was
it?
Otis. Hurricane
Otis, that's the one.
What What?
In 24 hours, went to a Cat 5.
But do you know what the wind speeds were of this thing?
Crazy.
270 kilometers an hour.
Yeah.
270. It's
That's a Cat
165
5.
miles an hour.
Mhm.
That's, I mean, what? That's when it made landfall at that speed.
Yeah. So the storm eye wasn't moving that fast, but the wind was, right?
Oh, completely.
And only for, was it 300 kilometers offshore?
Something like that, yeah.
That's all it took to get
Yeah.
in 24 hours to get to Cat 5
Yeah.
from nothing. So think about this. You warm the ocean to 32 degrees, and we've got that going on everywhere on the planet.
You're going to take a bath in a soup at that point. It's soup.
I know. I've been to tropical places, Mickey, and the water feels like nothing.
Yes.
Because it's the same temperature you are.
I was in Phuket. I was in Phuket,
Yep.
Baby Moon, years ago.
Can be pronounced differently. But good morning to everyone.
Phuket. It's in Thailand. Anyway, the point is this. It was hot, 30 odd degrees, 32. Obviously tropical, quite sticky and all that, but nice. I loved it, right? But you're right, Dave. In fact, as I walked from the beach into the Andaman Sea, but that's what it was. The Andaman Sea is there, right? It was like I was going into a bath, a warm bath. Forget skin temperature, forget air temperature. It was hotter than the air.
Yeah.
And I was thinking, that didn't feel refreshing at all. So I went back to the hotel pool. That's where I went. It's just, what? Nuts.
Yeah, when you can't get relief from being in the water, if you actually start perspiring when you get into the water, it's not a fun experience.
It is
because
not.
you can't get cool then. There's no way you can get cool. So my prediction when I was like in the 80s, when I worked out what weather was, how it operated, and then what it would take for this to occur, and we're getting so close to it, it's so funny. And that is the perpetual storm, like the eye on Jupiter, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you could have a perpetual storm going around the planet that could be 2,000 kilometers across, and it would only briefly be over land, because there's not much land at the equator, to be honest, right? Briefly get over it, skip across a couple of the land, and then back onto enough feed hot water to be able to perpetuate itself. It could be there. It could be doing 300 kilometers an hour in motion, let alone the wind speeds. It could be 600, 800 kilometers an hour wind speed of the wind in the storm, in the hurricane or cyclone, or what's the other one? Oh,
Tornado? No. Typhoon?
Typhoon. Thank you. So that's just the language that describes it, but it could be that could come around. It could be a thing, because we've had it skip over the north of Australia into the Gulf, then over Darwin, and then off into the Indian Ocean, and it's stayed as a cyclone throughout.
Yeah.
Re-intensified, of course, because it kind of peters out when it hasn't got fuel, and fuel is the hot water. Anyway, so it's still we waiting for the next day to get some good footage and news reports out of Mexico.
Look, it is time. I was going to say, making a bad pun, it's time to hold on to your heads. So, which is true in so many ways, but ultimately these things are happening. It's not like they're not happening, and they used to happen very infrequently. I mean, we used to have crazy extreme weather events. They used to happen. Yes, that's absolutely true. 100%. Not denying that at all. However, they're no longer extreme, freaky weather events. They're just the weather now. That's just what the weather is. I'm just looking forward with trepidation. And not forward. I'm looking, I guess, sort of, kind of. But I wonder what the extreme weather events will be. That's what I'm really
if this
holding
is
out
the norm
for.
Now. Yeah. What makes it extreme? So that's why I said 2,000 kilometers wide. It could be 3,000 kilometers wide.
Yeah. Yeah, and like you said, maybe a permanent thing, maybe a permanent fixture.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, could you imagine an area of the world, doesn't probably be over the water, but nonetheless, an area of the world where you've got a permanent supercell,
Yep.
right? And that might have little supercells peeling off from it, like a cactus, you know, like a constant storm generator.
Yeah, yeah,
Just imagine the energy that's going to go into the thing.
Oh yeah,
But
crazy.
it's nuts.
But that would mean climate refugees. You couldn't live under it.
Oh,
it would just
completely.
it would destroy everything, right?
Yeah, and that's exactly right. I mean, there's a place in the world, I forget where it is, where there's more lightning than anywhere else. In fact, it's like it's a lake, and I think it's in South America. I will find it and I'll tell you guys.
South America, yeah.
But it's like an insane place where there's lightning, like literally. And I don't mean this I mean literally all the time.
It's 10,000 strikes or something an hour or some crazy numbers. Yeah,
it really is insane. But look, enough about the weather. But because I do want to, Dave, I want to get our metaphorical teeth into
drive this, Mecky. Hit the accelerator.
So look, I am concerned. I am concerned because this is what I read. Okay. Australia, this is from the Guardian newspaper. Mm-hmm. Australian sends aircraft and troops to Middle East in case this gets worse.
That's right.
So let's just.
We already have 2 planes sent there unannounced.
Yeah.
And they're sending another plane, and then we're sending ground troops. Now, I'm just before you continue, I'm going to just let everybody else know that the ground troop thing is more likely to be not humanitarian aid or anything, but our equivalent of our special ops, our Green Beret or whatever, right? Because in Iraq, we were in and out before the first parts of the first conflict occurred. It was already set to go, but our people went in and came out and did all these recons, and we were we were running point, I suppose. So this is what our guys do really well.
But
so,
this is, but see,
and that's what I predict is going to be what their role is.
But on whose behest?
I know,
so
right?
Let's be very clear, right? So what they're saying is, the Australian government is sending a significant contingent of aircraft and supporting troops to the Middle East on standby in the event this gets worse, as the death toll from Israel airstrikes passes 5,700. Now, they're not talking about Hamas and killing 2,000 Israelis anymore. They're talking about Israeli airstrikes killing civilians in Gaza. That's what this is. Five. And look, the ratio of retaliation, roughly, that used to hold true was at least 1 to 100. So for every Israeli life lost, they would take
100.
Nobody take 100. But look, nobody sat down and made the calculation. That was just the response they gave, right? And it might have even, in certain instances, gone as high as 1 to 1,000. But why on earth are we sending troops and aircraft, military aircraft, into that powder keg? It is. I mean, are we going to fight? Like maybe Dave is right. Maybe we're just there for special ops reasons. But if they're sending a significant contingent, they're not going to send all of our SAS.
No,
right? We can't afford that because there aren't that many. They will send normal ground pounders, I would say. Okay. Now, if it gets harder or worse, or to get people out, I mean, a couple of airplanes not going to be able to get all of the Australians out that are there.
No, that's right.
So now, what are the others doing? And look, the thing is this: I listen to German news and other language news services as well. The German defense minister was in the area as well last week. When Biden was there, the Germans were there, the French were there, a couple other Europeans as well. In fact, the British Prime Minister was there. So everybody went there, ostensibly to support Israel, but not necessarily only Israel. And protests around the world have been in favor of the Gazan population. Okay? Because these airstrikes are now pounding and completely destroying Gaza, where there are 2 million civilians. Yeah, I'm not supporting Hamas, Hezbollah, or anyone. I'm a supporter of no one. That's what I am. But you have to look at proportionality here. And like I said, if Netanyahu gets his way, he will bulldoze Gaza into oblivion and push all of the inhabitants of Gaza into Egypt or the ocean or into a big hole that he will then set on fire. He doesn't care as long as they're gone. And he said, when we leave Gaza, there will be no Hamas. Now, let's be very clear. If he allows Palestinians to get back into Gaza, Hamas will return. Because nothing has changed. You still have desperate people living in desperate circumstances.
You
with not much.
Mackie, and they're going to fill it real quick.
Bada bing, bada boom. Will it be called Hamas? Who knows? It doesn't matter.
Well, they're going to rebrand and
yeah, rebrand. It's time for. I'm sorry.
I'm actually not kidding because the threat is rebranded over and over again.
Yeah.
Right.
And yeah, oh look, absolutely. Look, so far, 1,400 Israelis were killed. 300 of those were soldiers. 200 odd were taken hostage, and a few hostages were released, and they were Americans. Now, the thing is this: Hamas doesn't just release hostages because it's the right thing to do. They're still holding more than 200, right? But they released a mother and her daughter, middle-aged mother and her, I think, 20-odd daughter, and 2 older women, 40s or 50s, I think. But the question I have is why? How much did it cost? And who interceded? Now, it turns out apparently
who are they? Yeah.
Yeah, it turns out that it's either Dubai or the UAE. I think it was the UAE that are now the closest to Hamas, and they can negotiate on your behalf and put pressure. So somebody, in my opinion, spent a lot of money or made a lot of promises to get those 4 people out.
Yeah.
Okay? Because that's what happens. You don't just... I mean, it says they were released for humanitarian reasons. That means exactly nothing.
That's right.
I'm sorry.
That's just blurb. That's the glossy brochure.
But if Australia... And we are about as far from Gaza as you can get without going in the same direction again. If we are sending troops into the Middle East, right? Ready, like, and a significant contingent.
Yeah.
This is not just soldiers trying to evacuate Australians, I don't think. They're getting ready for something. And you know what's funny? This is what's funny. And look, I'm not a Bible basher, but the book is interesting in certain parts. It does have something about the armies of the world meeting each other at Armageddon, which is the plain of Megiddo.
That's right.
And if even Australia is going there, right?
Yeah.
The Americans are there with 2 aircraft carrier groups. The Chinese and Russians are not going to stand by. Yeah, they're not going to stand by. And when the ground offensive starts in anger, which it hasn't yet, but it will, because in fact, it has. There were some incursions into.
Yeah, they've gone through the fence, right?
Yeah, with tanks and bulldozers, as it were. Actually,
of course.
I'm not kidding. They actually went in with bulldozers. Like I said, I scare myself sometimes. And I think 20 or 30 journalists, mostly Palestinian journalists, have already been killed as well in Gaza. Just to let you know. So it's not an easy job to be a journalist in those areas. But this is really worrying me now. And of course, people are playing it down, this and that. But if this were to escalate, which I think it will, because you can't just have that many people in the area, even if it was unintended, right? Do you remember when in Independence Day, right? I actually loved that movie.
Yeah,
the first one. The first one, not the second one. The first one. It's always the first one. It's like they shouldn't have to make any other Matrix movies after that. But the first one and the giant spaceship over LA was being shot at by the gang members and such, right? And there was this loudspeaker and the radio warning as well. Please don't shoot at the spaceship, lest you start an intergalactic war or interstellar war or whatever they said, right? The point is this, though. If you move a military force of significance into an area, and the other military forces of significance in the area, plus a militarized population, which is what the Palestinians are. They're a militarized population, and another militarized population, which is the Israelis. So both populations, both the Israelis and the Palestinians, are militarized. The Lebanese, militarized and hardened fighters. Hezbollah, I think it's about 100,000 strong. They've got 100,000 fighters, if I'm not mistaken, and deep pockets, and ordnance. Right? Let's be very clear as to what we're dealing with here. This is not a small terror organization. This is a regular army. Hezbollah is an army, and I don't want to lie to you about the numbers, but I'm pretty sure those are about right. And they're being financed by Iran and others, of course. I mean, look, believe it or not, but the Saudis do finance these guys as well. Not officially, but unofficially, and private citizens. Yeah, that's right. 100,000 trained fighters, and apparently, Jane's Defense Weekly, which is a fairly a significant military publication out of the UK, assessed in 2017, so that's 6 years ago, that Hezbollah at that point was at 25,000 full-time fighters. So they've got a standing army of 25,000 in 2017, and another 30,000 reservists. So that was 2017. So these are not to sneeze at, and most of the Israeli population, both men and women, have served in the army. Okay, and they like the Swiss. I think they all have automatic weapons at home just in case things go sideways. Okay, so this is, it's not a powder keg. It's a case full of old unstable nitroglycerin. Is what it is. Okay. Hey, what's this? That looks like a fine drop.
Someone with Parkinson's is transporting the suitcase.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Dave, what can I say? What can I say, man? This is just nuts.
Yeah, look, the representation of global powers with some very mighty vessels. Is one point. We're in there because of our treaty with the US, not on our own bat. We are not there because we wish to start fighting with somebody. We're there because we have a treaty with the US. It's an agreement, and it's if one's in, we're all in, and that's basically it. I'm looking at the map, Meki, and I'm right now, and I can see, the Red Sea with the Suez Canal, and Israel, Jordan, Lebanon, Syria, Iraq, Saudi Arabia, Yemen, for that matter, Egypt, Libya, Algeria. There's Turkey, Armenia, Azerbaijan. Iran, Afghanistan, right? Pakistan. Turkmenistan, Meki. All of these countries are just, it's like a person holding a gun who has a twitch and they're sweating profusely.
Yep. Yes.
Right? All of those countries are just right on the edge. You just have to touch them. Doesn't matter how, and someone's going to shoot. Outside of the Israel-Gaza, Palestinian problem. So having two carrier strike groups in there as a show of force, yeah, damn straight that's a show of force. Some of the best weaponry on the planet is there. You only have to have someone with an air rifle in Saudi Arabia and pa-ding! It goes off the bow of the carrier, and someone's going to take offense to that. All right, it doesn't matter which way it goes. Doesn't matter which country does it. To which country? So is this the thing that I saw, Mackie? Is this the time? Because I've seen this for 30 years. I've had the same vision of this time.
Well, my friend.
The last thing, Mackie, was filling up bottles of water. And we now have so many indoor plants, and we fill up bottles of water, and you turn them upside down and put them into the baskety thing it's a drip feed.
Yeah.
So I forget what it's called. Belinda makes all those things. We're indoor plant mad. That was the last one before the flames run across the ground, and it's nuts, Mackie. I'm just telling you, we're right at the precipice of the next thing. So when all of this started to culminate and get out of control, and then suddenly there was, when I, like I said before, and I said this on the other show, when I watched the footage on YouTube, that was the found footage from those Hamas who were wearing body cameras or GoPros, whatever, and doing what they did. All I wanted myself, having witnessed that, it was not a good production. The director was just wherever the camera pointed. The action was awful to watch. I watched it because I had to know. I had to see it. But I was shocked, Mackie, and all I wanted to do was turn Gaza to glass. Right? The powerful nature. I don't care who was the good guys and who was the bad guys. It was just atrocious what they did. The bad guys in this. What doesn't matter. I don't care which two countries they were. I would feel so strongly for the people that were being attacked. It just happens that this is the way it is at the moment. So, yeah, absolutely terrible. And if I feel like that, and I'm actually, I do like historically, looking at wars in the past and strategic, mishaps and how could they have done it better. And I do play strategy games, and I'm just going, wow, look, sadly, even I had a very strong focus on if I had the buttons and I had the codes, Gaza would be glass, and I can only understand what it must be like for the country that was being attacked. And I'm glad that they've held off long enough not to have done that as a knee-jerk reaction.
But
do you know what I mean?
Look, I agree, and this is really important to understand. So,
calm the hell down.
Well, Hamas does operate out of Gaza, and it's a Sunni organization, whereas Hezbollah, Shiites. Anyway, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, right.
The point is, they're different. One followed the uncle, one followed the nephew. Excuse me. And they're much smaller. So Hamas is a lot smaller. I said 100,000 for Hezbollah, and Hamas maybe 25,000. Still, it's and they lost 1,000 odd people in the attack. Yeah. Now, and as I said, they operate out of Gaza. Having said that, there are 2.2 million people in Gaza, and there might be even a chunk of people that support Hamas. I get it, but it's not even 1% of the population. The Hamas numbers.
Yeah.
Yet Israel feels compelled to drive Hamas out of Gaza. The only way you can drive Hamas out of Gaza, and I'm not being funny here, because they've got a massive tunnel system as well. Is the way you hunt a rabbit. You have to raise Gaza. You have to raise it, and then you have to plow it under.
That's right.
And you have to blow up the tunnels. If this really is about getting rid of Hamas, then this will happen. Now, having said all of that, it is important to understand what brought this on. The attack was the worst mass killing of Jews since World War II, since the Holocaust.
Mm-hmm.
The worst. The single worst day. And you have to ask yourself here, we asked this question before. How did it happen? It is inconceivable. It is almost inconceivable, because clearly it is conceivable because it happened, that it would happen without the knowledge of the security services of Israel.
Yeah.
Okay. So then the game here is to cleanse Gaza, I use my words advisedly, of Hamas, which of course is not possible unless everybody in Gaza is gone. Okay, everybody has to be gone, and ideally not activate Hezbollah. But see, the thing is this: even though Hezbollah are Shia and Hamas and Lebanese and Hamas are Palestinian and Sunni, ultimately they both reject.
They have a common enemy.
Well,
there you go.
They do it, but it's deep, because they reject the rights Israel to exist, based on religious grounds. In the same way that ultra-Orthodox Jews reject the right of Israel to exist. It's very complicated, guys. Very complicated. Because again, we discussed this, right? It's a secular state. It was not founded by the Messiah, as it were. So it leaves us wondering just how much had gone into this. Because again, this came out of the blue. Okay? It came out of the blue. The worst attack on Israelis, or by extension Jews, in how is it, 60, 70, 80 years almost. And then followed swiftly, of course, by, and no one doubts that it was Hamas. Obviously, it was Hamas that did it, right? There's no doubt about it. I mean, you don't have to blame 19 Saudis in the plane, because you know who did it, right? I mean, and Hamas said, yeah, of course we did it. But to what end? Did Hamas work into Israel's pocket, so to speak? Did they? What's happening? Does that actually help the Israelis to fulfill their ultimate goal, which is, of course, to get rid of the Palestinian question once and for all, right? That's what they want.
Did you see that Netanyahu had actually mentioned the prophecy today?
Oh, really?
Yeah.
No, I did not.
So when you hear them say that, it's, to me, like they're making it happen. To make the prophecy come true.
Right.
Does it make I know that you know it makes sense, right?
Yeah.
So, and that was a bit surprising today. I'll just dig up the news story.
If you could, yeah, that would be.
Yeah.
But look, there are forces, especially fundamentalist Christians, that there are forces that are working actively, and we discussed this before, that are working actively toward the end of times, which would bring about the rapture, coming of Christ, battle of Armageddon, etc., and they would, everybody goes to heaven, hurrah! But for that to happen, the last battle has to happen as well, right?
That's right.
And that's the kicker, of course. Let's not do that, shall we?
Yeah, can we not? Yeah.
Can we? Yeah.
Just skip that one. Like, if you count to 10, like 1, 2, skip a few, 10, right?
Just
do
keep
that.
Just keep a lid on your crazy. But that's true. People are actively working toward the end of the world.
Yep.
Now you think a supervillain like Blofeld would do that? No. Born again Christians. That's who does it. What? True story.
So
have you got
I sent you the link. Yeah.
Oh, did you?
Yeah.
Not in the chat though. Right?
Not in. This is just privately. Not.
Oh, okay, gotcha. Oh, here we go. Why don't you go ahead and share it with? Here we go. Jesus, guys, look at that.
I'm going to paste it into the chat room too, so everyone can see.
Netanyahu evokes religious prophecy in Israel-Gaza war speech.
So he does point out Iran, Hezbollah, and Hamas as all enemies So, yeah, it was confronting to see that for me because, when Mecky and I have talked about all the prophecies. We did shows on the prophecies and what some of them mean for today, and especially like we have the last pope. It's meant to be a black pope, and the black pope is a Jesuit, so that all makes sense. That happens to be the thing, and I keep thinking about the Temple Mount prophecy. It's like, oh, really? Don't be now, right? Just don't be now, because if there were to be a conflict on a global level, there would want to be a quick end. We've seen Russia and Ukraine go for we're coming up to 2 years.
Yeah.
And it's still going. Can you imagine what it would be like if no one had any money to donate to anybody to solve the next conflict? Can you imagine what that would be like?
Yeah.
Because, there's so much being donated to try and, just end up as a stalemate almost, right? Between Russia and Ukraine. From all the countries in the world donating stuff. So, for every piece of equipment, we have a countermeasure, and it becomes a stalemate. There isn't any significant advantage to anything that we have today. Of course, you'd keep all your best assets for last. Don't start with them, because if you lose them, then it'll just be a level playing field. Try to cause attrition the best way you can with what you've got at the same level. So then you can dominate when they've run out of their resources. Hopefully you don't run out first. And that's what we've seen. And I'm really thinking, Mecky, that to your point, leading into this discussion about prepping, I think it really is the time to start prepping. Did you know Sweden, Mecky, was mailed iodine tablets by its government? Yeah.
Do you know why they do that?
Oh, I know why they do it. I already eat iodized salt, so...
Yeah, look, same here.
Yeah.
No, it's actually to help with radiation.
That's right.
It does help. It won't. I mean, if you've got a good dose of radiation,
it doesn't make you immune to it.
No, it won't.
No,
but it certainly helps. In fact, iodine salt is what my mom always ate because she had some issues with her thyroid, because she came from a fairly, iodine poor country or area in Germany, right? So they ate the iodine in the salt because that's usually how you get it.
Switzerland. Sorry.
Yeah, that makes sense because it's a mountainous country, not enough iodine there. If you're closer to the the ocean or whatever, then you have iodine in the air, and you get it from the environment.
This was last week. On behalf of the Army Pharmacy, Swiss Post is distributing iodine tablets to households, businesses, and public institutions within a 50-kilometre radius of Swiss nuclear power plants.
Yeah, well, that's...
They might have heard something or got some intel on something there.
Yeah. And just to be clear, the prophecies of Isaiah are specifically talking about the second coming of Christ. That's what Mr. Netanyahu here, according to the article that Dave gave us, is saying. He actually said this. This is what he said. Blah, 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 blah. It is now time to come together for one purpose, to storm ahead to achieve victory in joint forces and a profound belief in justice, a profound belief in the eternity of the Jewish people. We shall realize the prophecy of Isaiah. But you know what's already happening? People are lashing out. Attacks against Jews, attacks against Muslims in Germany, in Berlin.
And in China, I saw too.
Yeah, I was watching the German news channels, the Jews in Berlin are no longer wearing, the little cap they wear.
Mm-hmm.
They don't wear that. They don't read Hebrew literature that could be identified as such. They don't talk in Hebrew. They're terrified because in Germany, after all this time, and I can tell you the history of it, but it'd take too long. There's this very strong right-wing movement undercurrent in Germany, very strong, very, very strong. And I think it's in response to the collective guilt that the Germans had to swallow after World War II. Rather than being allowed to forget, they were made to remember, and constantly this whole collective guilt was harped upon, which then led to, in my generation, 80s, born in the 60s but went to school in the 70s and 80s, it led to, because we had nothing to do with the war, obviously, when we were there, right? But it led to an oversaturation with all things World War II. And in fact, you couldn't go to school in Germany in almost every subject, with the exception maybe of physics and chemistry. You would talk about World War II and the collective guilt of Germans, and never again. Mm-hmm. But France is similar. England is similar. A very strong right-wing undercurrents. Yeah. And it, again, once a shooting war starts in anger, sympathizers of both sides could very well start to strike in countries thousands and thousands of kilometers away.
Yeah, all over the planet. Yeah, totally.
Dave, maybe this maybe just to refresh our listeners' memory on the fire prophecy that you had there. Oh, sorry, not the vision. Let's call it the vision, the fire vision that you had.
Yeah, so from all around the world, over, say, 30 years, when the vision appears, I might be someone different on the planet. And the fire vision is, there's a roaring sound, and all the oxygen's taken out of the air. You feel like you're burning, your bones are on fire inside you. It's not a radiant heat. It feels like you're on fire on the inside. It's completely awful. And there's some relief found nestling into a vertical steel girder, which I happen to have experienced. But people in banana plantations, people just walking along the street, suburban life. Post this, in the days after, I can only presume, because that's what it felt like, women were putting makeup on to hide their burns. So I've heard stories from those who survived Nagasaki and Hiroshima, and that they felt like their bones were on fire on the inside. What I could see visually, because at no point did I see a mushroom cloud or anything like that, and it did last a while, like minutes of this intense thing, and you could go underground, or you could be in a sub basement or something and not feel it. So for me, I always wondered whether it was a gamma ray burst, because that would be the same thing. You would experience the same thing, or nuclear weapons or something. I don't know. I can't put it to it because I can't. The vision doesn't show the cause; only shows the symptoms. And so that was totally frightening. And the other was watching the air being consumed by this flame front, coming racing across the ground, and truly awful. So all around the world, Mackie, it was, right? So that's why I took up the, I've only got six minutes, I'll let you go with it. I'm done.
Okay, fair enough. No, look, we don't like to be fearmongers at all, but we are barometers for you to take a measure of the situation on the planet. we have collectively between Dave and I decades of experience in analyzing international events. I mean, I went to study to actually do just that years ago at university, right? I was studying the Middle East specifically. That was my major, if you want to call it that. So I've always been interested in history. You know, there's a technology knowledge that we bring as well, scientific knowledge. And so we're trying to dissect it for you. We're trying to give a warning, sound a warning, be the canary in the mine, and make you mentally prepared, if not physically. Because the key thing is this, and my grandfather taught me this when I was yay high to a grasshopper. He said to me, he fought in World War II. He was on the Eastern Front in Breslau fighting the Russians in 1942. Or actually, no, sorry, he went to fight in 1944, I think. And he was already in his 40s. He was drafted because let's just say a neighbor didn't like him and said he committed crimes against the Reich. Okay, so they took him away and sent him to the front. He also refused to join the Nazi Party, which didn't help him. But he said to me this is what he said. In a war scenario, if you are, not very many rules, but these rules are golden. You walk around a corner, or you're around into an area that you can't see, you shoot first. You think someone is coming your way, or you see someone out the corner of your eye, you shoot. Doesn't matter. Friend, foe. You can apologize later and feel bad later. Shoot first, is what he said.
Wow.
And he said, if you draw a weapon, you use it. Mm-hmm. Doesn't matter what weapon it is. Do not draw a weapon unless you... I was like 6 or 7 years old, right?
Unless you're going to use it, right?
Yeah. Because the person that you drew it against, if you're unprepared to use it, will use it against you. Mm-hmm. So these were his golden rules, right? He didn't hate the Russians, even though he lost his arm. They pulled him out of a pit. He'd already been thrown into the pit, but apparently his eyelid fluttered. That's what the Russians told him afterwards. So they pulled him out. They'd already put what's this chalk? You know, the chalk that not chalk. It's this chemical they put in. It's caustic. Not caustic soda. Is it caustic? Maybe it's caustic soda. They had already lime. I think they might have already sprinkled lime on all the bodies. That's to prevent disease, etc. Anyway, they pulled him out.
It makes the dissolve quicker.
It makes that too, right? Less disease, but it dissolved quicker. But so they pulled him out, and they had to amputate his arms because he was badly wounded, as you can imagine. And they, brought him back to life, if you will. And then he came back home after the war, and he was 2 meters tall, and he weighed like 40 kilos, I think. And he came on a donkey. My mom told me he came riding home on a very skinny donkey. My grandmother's brother spent, I think it was 15 or 16 years in Siberia. He was one of the few survivors of the 6th Army in Stalingrad. So he was fighting in Stalingrad, and he never spoke about it. Never, ever spoke about it. He got a huge compensation payment from the German government, massive, for 15 or 16 years in Siberia. I guess that's to be expected. And he was one of the few, and there's only a handful of men out of 100,000 that survived both Stalingrad and the subsequent POW time in the Siberian prison camps. My point is this: the thing that you need to be prepared for most is your mental preparation. Your mind needs to be flexible enough to deal with crisis situations. You see something happening, you need to stay calm. I'll give you an example of my own life. And like I said, I had this lesson early from my grandfather. 1 minute. Yeah, it's saying it really. I was chopping something, fruit, veggies, I can't remember. I think it was veg. And I chopped off a good chunk of my index finger on my left hand, including half the nail. It was splurting blood, right? But funnily enough, I was the only one that remained calm, right? I told my wife, give me this, give me that. Okay, thank you. Let me wrap it. Now someone has to drive me to the hospital. Because if you're in crisis, the last thing that you can afford is blind panic.
That's right.
Fear is the mind killer. What does it mean? It means your higher brain functions shut down.
That's right.
You cannot afford that. Train yourself, if you can, to overcome the initial few seconds of panic. Stay collected. What do I need to do to survive? What do I need to do in this situation?
Mm-hmm.
I have to do this now. There's no one coming for you. No one is going to help you. You have to do it. If you take that away, and some of you remember this and do it, I'm a happy person, right?
Totally.
But it's critical. Oh, the music! All right.
Nicely timed.
You do what you can, right? This has been Plato's Cave. Thank you so much for allowing us into your lives, homes, drive, whatever it might be. And don't go anywhere. I'm sure something cool is coming up. Don't know what, but don't touch that dial. And most of all, be safe.